Hi there, this is Se-ha Ahn from Se-ha Ahn Films, and welcome to another random review. And today's random review is the 2016 Korean film Will You Be There? Directed by Byun Seo-jin Chae. Again, I'm probably going to butcher some Korean names, so apologies to anybody who speaks the Korean language. This is her latest film. She's directed a couple of films, Kitchen and Marriage Blue, as well as a couple of shorts. This is her latest film from 2016. And it perhaps just appears that every random review I do is either an indicator film or a Korean film. That's just your imagination. It just seems that way. This stars, again, apologies, Se-ha Ahn, Byun and Seo-jin, and probably the most familiar face is Kim Yoon-suk, who was in The Chaser and Yellow Sea, who, if you haven't seen those two films, I would recommend them. This is a film that perhaps, depending what mood you're in, you would either really like, or if you're in a kind of cynical mood, probably not like. I was surprised because, again, if this was a Hollywood film, I would probably hate it, but because it's Korean, I was actually tempted to give it 5 stars after watching it. I think I settled on 4 stars, but I was just in the right mood for it. It's about romance, it's about the sacrifices you sometimes make, and it's also about time travel. This is the beautiful Plain Archive edition, Plain Archive number 46. I don't know whether you can see, if you change, it's got a lenticular cover and it goes from the English language title to the Korean title, and the characters move as well. As with all Plain Archive stuff, it's absolutely beautiful. I mean, they even put art in the inside of the box. That's the... Again, it's just absolutely beautiful. And it's really about 3 characters. You get like art cards and a nice little sleeve, and that's the 3 characters there. You might recognise some of them. This is a film that starts in Cambodia, where a doctor, played by Kim Yoon-suk, is on a humanitarian mission, and he's about to leave, get in the chopper to leave, but he sees an old guy with a baby who needs help, so he gets off the chopper and goes to help, which means he's delayed going back to his normal job as a doctor. But during his time in the village with the old man asks him, you know, is there something you really want in life? And he says, you know, there's somebody I'd really like to meet who I haven't seen for years. And the old man gives him this wee bottle with 10 little seeds or pills in it. Doesn't really explain what they are. But when he goes back to Korea to resume his doctoring duties, he takes one of them, and this film's set in 2015, and he takes one and he goes back, and he's in 1985, so it's 30 years ago, and he bumps into himself 30 years younger, and as a young man he is in love with a female dolphin trainer, the first female dolphin trainer in Korea, as pointed out several times, but because of his history with his own family, he's a little bit reticent to have children and settle down with her, and his older self keeps flashing backwards and forwards, giving him advice on what to do, and we finally kind of learn that the young woman is going to die in an accident, and we have the kind of moral dilemma of the younger version of himself finding this obviously upsetting and heartbreaking, but the older version saying it kind of has to happen or he loses his daughter, who he didn't have with the first female dolphin trainer in Korea. So it kind of sets up this fight between the two versions of himself of what to do and how to deal with the situation. Again, it's a film that if it was made in America I would probably hate, but because the characters are just so wonderful, the first female dolphin trainer in Korea, she's just absolutely fantastic, and you do feel yourself being pulled in to the story, rooting for certain things to happen. Again, I don't know whether I was just in the right mood for it. My cynical self was locked away somewhere. Maybe my past self from 30 years ago came with a little pill and put the cynical self 30 years later in a cupboard so I could watch the film. It is a fairy tale, it's not reality, strangely enough. Otherwise we'd all be taking little yellow seeds and going back 30 years and changing our lives. Great performances. As with, it seems, most Korean films, it's shot absolutely beautifully. Again, characters you root for, characters you want the best to happen for them. I should say it's fairly obvious that the Doctor in 2015 has got health issues. Again, I'm not going to go into complete spoilers for the film. You know, again, the cynical side of you will probably find it a little bit predictable, but there's still enough twists and turns along the way that you perhaps think certain things might happen. There's great support from the guy who plays the Doctor's police officer friend back in 1985, and then in 2015, because of certain events, there's been a gap of 30 years where some characters haven't seen other characters, but the performance by the police officer's really good, a lot of fun. And also the 2015 version of the Doctor, his work colleague gives nice support. Again, it is a film that, depending on who you are and what mood you're in, you might actually not like at all, or if you just go with it. I think there's much joy to be had from it, because it's just a beautiful film with wonderful actors. Again, it's about that time travel question of if you could change certain events, would you? Would you sacrifice somebody that you've grown up with for a chance to have something with somebody that you didn't have as long as a relationship with? It's kind of questions like that. It's lovely kind of play between the older version of him and the younger version of him, how they communicate with each other over the 30-year span. There's some very nice touches, which again I'm not going to spoil, of how they communicate over the 30-year span between the past and the present. It's just so well done. Again, I do find with quite a lot of these Korean films that have mainstream conceits and are kind of mainstream, whether it's mainstream action films or whatever. You know, I did a random review on Thieves, which is a really generic kind of mainstream Ocean's 15.5 type film. But just because it looks so good, it's executed so well, it's so well acted, it elevates it. And again, perhaps if it was a Hollywood film, it just wouldn't be that engaging. But again, because it's kind of, due to my ignorance, it's kind of fresh actors, with a few exceptions who are now familiar Korean actors, but generally it's fresh faces you haven't seen before. And there's an honesty and a kind of authenticness to these Korean films. So even if you are being manipulated by a kind of perhaps sentimental kind of feel to the film, you don't actually feel that way, because you're just immersed in it and you're just enjoying the characters and kind of how well the film's constructed from a technical point of view. So I would heartily recommend Will You Be Here. Again, let me know in the comments below if you've seen it, what you thought of it. And again, it might be one of those films that if I watch again and I'm a bit more of a cynical mood, it might change my viewpoint of it. But I just had a wonderful time with it. It's a joy little film. It's a joyous little film. So thanks very much for watching this random review. It's just your imagination that all my random reviews currently seem to be indicated are Korean films. It's just your imagination. These aren't the droids you're after. So thanks very much for watching, and hopefully you'll join me for more random reviews. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films saying farewell.